how many of you, this is the first ACP conference you've been to? Wow, well, enjoy the experience. We'll talk a little bit about some of how things work near the end, or maybe at the beginning if you don't get things going right away. These sessions that we have are sponsored by vendors, and you're here specifically because you're going to learn about a specific product. So welcome, and we would appreciate feedback on the session. One of the things that we do really religiously is we read all the evaluations from the session.
There's a main display board to HDMI adapter.
What you think we do make use of those evaluations.
There you go.
Thank you.
The conference is the way it is really depends upon the sponsors helping provide support. So we really appreciate them. The fun activities that take place, the wonderful food and various drinks that are available are really due to their sponsorship. At the same time, your job in attending is to let the vendors and sponsors know what it is you need. What is it that we, as part of the K-12 education community, have to have in serving our staff and students? Some of the vendors are really very aware of that. Some of them, this is sort of new as they look at this environment. So please help them understand what it is that you need. And it looks like, are we up and ready?
We're good to go.
And we're already on.
Yep, we're recording. So
we are.
That's good.
Great, I'm on. So on that note, I am going to turn it over to Alan Wynn from
Pure Storage.
From Pure Storage, and Chris, and they're going to take this over, and I'm going to sit down.
So disclaimer, before we start, you guys can all reach over and grab your imaginary seatbelt, put it on, because Flash is going to be fast, right? It's going to be a machine ride today. Right. So here, my friend here, Chris, he's a long-time Pure Storage customer. Our goal today is to kind of share with you the journey that he took into an all-flash data center. And hopefully you guys have any questions at all, feel free to ask away.
Great. So I'm in North Kitsap School District. We're up in Washington State, and we're on the Kitsap Peninsula right across from the Sound from Seattle, if you're not familiar with that area. We're a medium-sized school district. We have 10 schools total, 2 high schools, 2 middle schools, 6 elementaries, approximately 6,000 FTE. We had a variety of legacy equipment in various locations throughout the district, going back to legacy network connectivity that didn't provide for a unified data center. And in the last couple of years, we've increased our internal LAN by a minimum factor of 10, thus enabling us to unify our data center and get rid of a lot of the disparate equipment in the various locations. And so a portion of this was getting our storage up to speed off of legacy equipment that was old and out of support and had performance limitations.
And that inclines, and that basically, when you have trouble in IT, that turns over to the student and faculty members, right, at the end of the day. The customer, IT's customer is the student and faculty members. So how do we go about improving that with an enhanced data center? And we're going to talk through that today. So throughout the last decade, you see a big growth in the data center. There's virtualization that came about. VMware came about, condensed a lot of the data center down. You can share resources. Moore's law is picked up, and you see with Intel coming out with denser or faster CPU. But one part of the data center that has not improved over time is really the storage component, the disk. Last decade or 2 decades, 7K disk, 10K disk, 15K disk is the fastest you'll get. So flash is the answer to get rid of the bottleneck, which is storage. There's a lot of different options out there, right? The market is flooded with different options. At VMworld last year, over 60% of the floor space at VMworld was literally just for storage. So as consumers or as IT professionals, how do you know which option to choose? Right. So there's different options out there like flash cache or flash tier. Right. But there's also another pretty cool concept, the all flash array. And what all these three the reason why it's in the market today is really because of the cost of flash. Right? So at the end of the day, if the cost of flash has dropped down to the cost of a hybrid solution, why wouldn't you go all flash, right? And the reason why you would want to go all flash is really the consistent performance that's sitting behind it. And also the simplicity, and also the performance that you get from for your end users as well. So we're gonna have several different topics throughout this entire presentation. These are all the topics that Chris considered when he made his decision. You want to talk about how reliability and performance
Sure.
is?
So on the reliability side, as I mentioned, we had geographically dispersed server environment because of slow network speeds and the necessity of having servers in each school or a group of schools that were in close proximity to each other. Each one of those locations had various types of storage. Pretty much all of them were just direct attached storage, either legacy SCSI or at our district office we had an older HP StorageWorks SAN that was fiber channel, 2 gig fiber channel. And one thing that was consistent about all the units is that their performance was limited. You're only going to get, if you've got traditional spinning disk, anywhere from 125 to at the very max 200, depending on SATA, SAS, fiber channel, disk, number of IOPS per disk. And so we had a number of initiatives we were looking at doing. One of them was just simply server replacement. The existing deployment was strictly for the servers we needed in our district. Active Directory domain controllers, file servers, print servers, application servers, database servers. So we needed to replace those. The servers themselves were on older servers. They were on older versions of Hyper-V. The server VMs themselves were older version of Windows. A lot of them were 2003, some of them 2008. So we had the need to get all those upgraded. But then the other initiative we were looking at district-wide was going to a VDI deployment for actual workstations, primarily student workstations. So, in a district our size, for roughly 6,000 students and 1,000 staff, we had almost 4,000 end-user compute devices. From workstations, laptops, tablets, what have you. Certainly not all of them Windows-based, but end-user compute devices, roughly 4,000, right around there. And many of them in the age range of 8 to 10 years old. Literally thousands of devices that, if any of you know what a Dell GX260 is, we had them by the pallet load. And so, needing to cycle those devices out, looking at what we could replace them with for student devices, and looking at the advantages of VDI. And so, with VDI, you're able to leverage a lesser expensive desktop or end-user compute devices. For instance, we pretty much exclusively leveraged zero clients. You've got an end-user device that, depending on what it is going to cost from $175 to $350 for your end-user device. It runs firmware, doesn't run an OS, and it's all manageable through, like, for instance, all the ones we got were the Teradata chipset, so you can manage it through the Teradata console, and then you've got your virtual VDI environment that you can create all your desktop pools in and have central management on. But one of the key things on that, of course, is if you don't have the storage performance, your VDI is going to fail miserably. The end user experience is going to be horrible, no one's going to want to adopt it, and it's going to fail. So anyway, long story short, we were looking to be able to adopt a unified storage environment to merge all of our server needs and our VDI needs onto one platform.
And what really kills VDI deployments, maybe some of you have known, is really the end user experience and the cost of storage as well. So what we find, I've been working with the public sector folks for over 2.5 years, and we've seen a lot of VDI deployments that has been deployed for 100 to 200 users and all of a sudden installed because no one wants to use it, right? So you make this investment, you want to make a smart investment. Forward. All right, so Pure Storage. So what Pure Storage offers is a platform that's all flash. Right? But in addition to all flash, every single component that we have here, it's always redundant. So it offers resiliency and you can basically lose any parts of the hardware itself, and the array will still chug along at 100% performance. In addition to that, the way that we make Flash affordable is we leverage intelligent software for data reduction. So with deduplication and compression, on the average, customers are seeing 5 to 1 to as high as 20 to 1 with VDI. In addition to that, the platform itself is made, you could throw whatever application on it. There is no different tiers of storage, so all the application sits on it will have the same exact performance throughout the entire lifespan. Can you tell us about your environment?
That's one thing I really appreciated in the configuration and provisioning of it. For those of you that have worked with a traditional storage array, SAN, your NetApps, your EMCs, some of the HPs depending, you're into a model where you have to intelligently look at your workload and then determine, okay, first I want to build this RAID volume. Do I want it to be RAID 1, or do I want it to be RAID 10, or what kind of resiliency do I need? What kind of throughput do I need? What's my reads versus my writes? So if you can estimate what your I/O is, it's like, if you've got, say you've got fiber channel drives, you can estimate maybe 200 I/O per drive. So you're thinking, well, my I/O might be around 2,000, so I'm going to need 10 drives for this. So you build your RAID volume, then you create your LUN inside that. And then you end up running into a scenario where if you create a RAID volume, provision LUNs inside of it, and then 6 months down the line need to expand the LUN, well, now my RAID volume's not big enough. What do? Now I have to build another RAID volume, and I have to span it. And you just get into this management nightmare where you're just circling yourself in figuring out how you want to split up all these RAID volumes and LUNs and which RAID type and all that kind of thing. With the pure storage, you don't have to do any of that. You build a LUN, you tell it how big you want it to be, done. That's it. Takes 2 minutes. If you need to expand it, you just say, oh, right now it's 1 terabyte. I need 1.5 terabytes. You go in there, you expand it, it's done. And certainly you've got the limitations of your entire storage array. You can't make it bigger than what you have. But the nice thing about compression and dedupe, particularly in the virtual environment, all of our hypervisors are all ESXi, and on the VM side, it only sees the raw storage amount. So you end up having to over-provision way more than what you think you would. We've got 2 terabyte volumes that have about 100 gig of usable space on them, or used up space. So it's like you look at that, it's like, well, I'm only using, that's 5% of the total storage space that I have provisioned. Well, unfortunately, the VM doesn't know that, so when you have something that's getting 8 to 1 compression and dedupe, it thinks that there's 2 terabytes there when there's really only about 200 gig being used. But doing all these things is very easy. You just go into the console, say, ooh, I want to build this volume, boom, call it this, you name it whatever. You don't create LUN types, you don't choose what disks you want it on, you just make it.
So the way that Chris is describing it, a lot of people might think, like a lot of our customers will say, hey, this seems like black magic to me. That's too good to be true. But there's actually a science behind this. So maybe if you have the next 5 minutes, I can kind of talk to you about the life cycle in I/O. Like what happens when an I/O comes through the array? Where does my data go, right? You want to make sure there's a reliability, there's a redundancy built behind it. So when an I/O comes to a storage array or a pure storage array, essentially what we do 2 things. First off, we do 4 things. We take 4 copies of that particular I/O, and we land it into these NVRAM modules right here. So we have 2 redundant NVRAM modules here, and our 2 controllers here are redundant as well. One single component during the life cycle of that particular I/O, one component here can die, and essentially we can look for that data back on the second copy over here. So once we land that data, we'll automatically send an acknowledgement back to the host, sub-millisecond, and let the host know, hey, you know what, your data, you're good to go, you can release it. Once that's been released, what Pure Storage does here in the background is we do the data reduction component. We look at all the zeros, we eliminate it. We look at all the unique blocks, we save those blocks, and anything that's duplicated, we get rid of. And then we apply compression as well. And then from there, once we figure out what is the smallest size that we can fit and all unique data into one segment, we create a larger segment, roughly about 42 kilobits in size, and then flush it to the SSDs. This prevents overwear on SSDs. A lot of times SSDs are not like traditional disks today. With traditional disks, you can write and erase blocks on it as much as you want, and it's not going to affect the life expectancy of the disk itself. With flash, flash is electricity, right? And the more you write to a block cell, and you read from it and you erase from it, eventually the cell is going to die out. So with Pure Storage, we have built in our Purity flash carrier layer, the ability to do global wear leveling, so we write evenly across the entire sectors of the SSD, about 20 SSDs as a whole, and we evenly write it out so there's no hot spots within SSD. We also applied RAID 3D, which is proprietary to Pure, very similar to RAID 6. So there's allowed to 2 drive blocks at a single time. And every time we lose a drive, it takes roughly about 6 minutes to rebuild parity. That's how fast it is. In addition to that, RAID serves as a second purpose. When we serve up a read or a write, what happens there is that when the SSD gets checked out for a write, you cannot check it out for a read at the same time. So what we do is we race, there's an internal engine here, that we race the I/O, where does I/O live, and if one SSD were to be checked out for the write, we will look at the RAID table and look where the second I/O lives, and we check that out for a read response. So you won't have the inconsistent performance. The non-disruptive operation is really big for a lot of public sector folks, particularly in education, because when you think about operating a SAN storage array or anything in IT today, you cannot have any downtime at all. It's really, really critical. As IT professionals, I would hate for you guys to work on the weekends. It's the weekends for the family, right? And with Pure Storage, we have built-in redundancy components that once all the components are redundant, so you can do any type of upgrades here, from software upgrades to if a flash module to die, we will pick it back up and we'll ship you the replacement parts. Anything to say about your experience with any parts that died up here?
So we've had our array for just almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in June. We did actually have one drive die here about maybe 3 weeks ago. First one ever. Didn't totally die. Kept going offline. They support would remote in and run some kind of diagnostic, put it back online, and then work for about 2 or 3 days, and then they go offline again. Didn't cause any data loss, or we didn't experience any downtime, any failures, anything like that. But they diagnosed after about the 3rd time that the drive was indeed failing. So they sent me a new drive. I had it overnight, popped it in. It was 2 minutes worth of work. And one thing that I really do like about the support also is all of the monitoring on this is anytime there's any kind of an event, it automatically notifies both Pure Storage support and myself via SMTP monitoring. So sends an email. On their side, they have the ability to remote into the unit if you give them permission and do any kind of diagnostics on the array. And then same thing for firmware upgrades. So the traditional SAN firmware upgrade, of course, if you've got a resilient unit with dual controllers, you're putting one in maintenance mode, you're doing the upgrade on it, you're bringing it back up, putting the second one in maintenance mode, doing the upgrade on it. You're doing all the work yourself. And it could take, who knows how long, depending on the type. I had some old EMCs that took 4 or 5 hours to do one between all the reboots. With the Pure, they do all the firmware upgrades. You just tell them a maintenance window, you give them access via the remote access console. I forget exactly what it's called. Yeah. And you just tell them your maintenance window. They remain in communication with you the whole time. Do the upgrade. Nothing goes off. They do one controller at a time, and boom, done. I schedule it to do it at 8 o'clock at night. They emailed me before, during, and after. Let me know we're gonna start. We started. We're in the middle of it. Everything's done. Back online. It's like maybe 45 minutes or so, and 0 work done for us.
We have a lot of large companies that would do their upgrades during peak times because they have confidence that Pure Storage Array will continue performing regardless if it's one controller or one fiber channel that's working regardless. So the second question Christopher has was, what is the ability to upgrade and scale, and what is the life cycle of the storage array itself? Let's face it, with hardware purchase today, you make a purchase of it, and by 2 years, you'll fully implement it. You migrate the data over, and then lo and behold, another 2 years pass, same story. It's a repeat process, right? Rinse and repeat. It's an ugly, ugly business model overall, and that's why Pure Storage has created this platform, a modular platform, to really get rid of that particular business model. The chassis itself, the FlashArray M, it's a 3U chassis. But within the 3U chassis, everything is all modular. From the controllers, from the flash modules, can be interchanged. The NVRAM modules can be swapped out. If you want to expand, there's SAS ports in the back, 8 gig or 12 gig now, for expansion. I/O modules, there's actually number one question that a lot of people ask, is that today I have 10 gig, but 40 gig is right around the corner. Can you support that? Does it require a whole entire controller upgrade or a fourth or fifth upgrade? With Pure Storage, there's no requirement for that because it's all modular. Right? All you do is you pull one controller out, pull out the PCIe card, and replace it with a 40 gig module. Not a problem. So prove it. A lot of people say, hey, prove how you can scale from generation to generation non-disruptively. So Pure Storage, we launched our first product back in late 2011, early 2012. We called it FA300. That non-disruptively scaled to FA400 non-disruptively during peak times. No data migration required because the data shelves stays in place and the controllers get swapped out. This is where my friend here, Chris, is at today, the FA420. 2 years from now, he's going to be migrating over to 1 year. Sorry, I was 1 year. 1 year from now, he's going to be migrating to the M20. So the M20, different chassis, but it's okay. What we've done is that our founder made it a fact to fit in the InfiniBand cables on the back end of the M20 to non-disruptively upgrade from the M20 to the FA400 to the M20. Keep in mind that the M20 natively doesn't come with InfiniBand ports. We basically leverage a PCI Express transparent bridge from Intel for the redundant connection from controller to controller moving forward. But we made a point that, hey, we made a promise to our customers that moving from generation to generation is going to be non-disruptive. So we made an investment where we'll plug in the InfiniBand cables in here, and once we fully transfer Chris over to the M20, there's no need for the InfiniBand cables anymore. So that's how we can keep upon this from moving a customer from generation to generation. Non-disruptively, data in place, not migrating ever again. And with our array, it's based off the x86 architecture. So it's definitely a commodity piece from Intel. And with Intel, as you can see, they're ramping up their schedule for production. They're getting more dense. It's getting a lot faster. So over every 18 months, Intel is coming out with the new and latest and greatest CPU. So the bottleneck for Pure is really the controller. But as you can tell, if you make an investment with Intel, they'll keep their word and you'll start getting these faster controllers, at least double every 2 years. So the number one question that a lot of people have in their mind right now is, what is the cost or the long-term cost for Pure? So there's several ways that Pure Storage can save you money. First off, it's our data reduction technology. We look at each byte at the 512 byte level, each block at the 512 byte level, which is really granular. The nearest competitor is between 4K to 8K to 16K. So we're at least minimum 4 times better than our nearest competitor in terms of data reduction. But second off, what we've done is we created this program called Evergreen Storage. So we combine our hardware scalability with different programs that we have in place in terms of even, like, for example, software. All software is inclusive. So when you move from one generation to generation, you're not rebuying that software that comes with that controller. But in addition to that, we have this really unique program here called Forever Flash. And Forever Flash is a really, really neat concept because part of our support program, every 3 years, essentially you get a free controller upgrade every 3 years. And that changes the whole entire economics for storage as a whole. When you look at traditional storage today, once again, the first year you make an investment, Second year, you pay for maintenance bill. Third year, you pay for the maintenance bill. And then the fourth, fifth, and sixth year, you have the option of paying a maintenance bill to keep on having on your floor, but at the same time, the technology hasn't improved, right? So you're paying for this whole piece of equipment that's considered legacy. Or, so you're paying for that at a higher cost as well. So you have to keep in mind that because the vendor had to keep that particular piece of hardware in-house or in the warehouse, so they're giving you an increase in cost for maintenance. Or the other option that everyone loves is a whole entire forklift upgrade or refresh. And that's where you pay a substantial amount, software, you pay for new hardware, you pay for the services, you migrate the data over to a new storage array. The funny thing is, you still buy disk, it still fits in case as disk, I don't know what's the difference. But with Pure Storage, what we've done is we flatline the entire cost and convert it over to an operational expenditure instead of a capital expenditure. You initially pay for Pure Storage up front, but afterwards, every year or every 3 years, you can pay for your maintenance. And at the fourth year, instead of paying for a refresh, essentially you get a free controller, but your storage stays in place. So we have, our sales team can build out a 6-year TCO, kind of show you what it looks like or give you predictable costs. That's really important for the control, is the predictable costs. So the other thing is it complex to manage your storage load? I mean, a lot of times we find that our customers they have several different storage solutions in-house, and they hate to introduce another complex storage array. With Pure Storage, we're not complex at all. We can simply plug back into your fabric. If you have 10 gig iSCSI, we can plug back to that, or if you have fiber channel, we can plug into that. But from a management standpoint, it's very simple. You want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. The management console on it, it's all web-based. It's right off the controllers. You don't need to build a VM or anything like that. Unlike our old HP that required specific versions of Java in a browser to even be able to access the thing, which was really fun. You're not limited. It's all HTML5, and you just connect to it via your web browser. All the management's done through there. It's just super easy. As I was mentioning before, as far as setting up LUNs, provisioning, volumes. I mean, it's the easiest thing I've ever seen by far. And like I said, I've worked with a lot of different vendors on storage, and the complexity that you have with most of them just isn't there with Pure.
Yeah, so the size of our instruction manual is essentially a size of business card. And it's basically CLI commands if you're into that CLI command stuff, right? If not, we have the HTML5 GUI, really easy to manage. It roughly takes about 3 clicks to provision storage. If I have VPN access, I would normally log in right now and provision storage real quick. And my pitch is that if a salesperson can provision storage, anyone can do this, right? So I wish we had that VPN access, but we don't. Even from a deployment standpoint, we roughly takes about 6 cords for us to deploy our storage array. 2 power cables, 2 10 gig connection for management, and either fiber channel or once again 10 gig if you want. All software is inclusive, so our quotes are basically on 2 line items. Once you make an investment with Pure, there's no need to worry about any software feature that comes down the line. All it comes in is a software upgrade. We don't charge anything extra for that. For example, that is replication came out about a year ago, and Pure Storage did not charge a customer a dime. What we've done is we just give them ask them to do a software upgrade, and they're good to go with replication. So what is our ability for support? Pure Storage, we recently did a study for the last 2 years, and we sent out a survey to all of our customers, asking them that, hey, once you deploy Pure Storage, would you make a recommendation for your friends or family? Our score came out to be 84, the latest in 2014. The nearest competitor overall is in the consumer market, the Apple iPhone. EMC came out at 44, and NetApp came at 18. And the reason why our score is so high is because we made a commitment to our customers that anyone that is a US-based customer will keep the support group in the US. So we have a support team in Mountain View, California, as well as in Utah. And it's a follow-up of the Sun model, so it's 24/7. Right? So regardless of where you are in the United States, you'll be speaking with someone that's local and we don't have any different tiers of support. It's essentially just one tier of support, and that person is assigned to manage your case from the end to the beginning, or from the beginning to the end. This is pretty neat. I mean, basically the array is made to send analytics, the report of the health analytics, every 15 seconds. Our array is so resilient. It's actually a good customer of ours, Mount Hood Community College, here locally. They had a air conditioning unit that died. And how did they find out? Well, our tech support found Don Adams, or basically the CIO or director of IT, home number to give them a call. No other vendor was able to do that because our array was kept on running, even regardless of the high heat temperature, right? So we got an alert for that, and we proactively reach out to them and say, hey, there's something wrong with your data center. I mean, it's pretty high. The heat's pretty high. So that's how proactive our support is overall.
We actually had the same exact thing happen. We had this last fall. We've just been really bad with power outages with high winds, and we're in the process of getting our data centers in our district office. We're in the process of getting our generator upgraded. The one that's there now just isn't sufficient enough to run everything. But we've had a bunch of high winds, and we've had, I don't know how many, Rich, 4 or 5, at least 6 extended power outages. This last one was, I don't know, probably 2-3 months ago. But yeah, we had the exact same thing happen. When the power went out, the generator will power a portion of our data center, but it won't power the AC units. So it got to be really hot in there. And actually, that's how we found out, first of all. We've got a part of our new generator refresh is a monitoring system, but our maintenance facilities doesn't have it installed yet, so we're still waiting. And that's how we actually found out, was from here on a high heat monitor. They emailed us and said, hey, you know, same thing.
So I guess it's common in the Pac Northwest. So, you know, Pure Storage is a fairly new customer. I mean, fairly new vendor. I heard, I know of EMC and NetApp. So who's Pure Storage? I mean, who are your customers, right? How can I rely on Pure Storage for my whole entire storage needs for a data center? So with Pure Storage, I mean, even though we've been in the market since we've been shipping products since 2012, but we have a slew of customers that we work with today, ranging from the large corporations like LinkedIn. Nike is a good customer of ours recently. Nordstrom is a customer of ours in the Pac Northwest. But we have smaller customers as well, from the public sector standpoint. We have universities like Stanford, Cal Berkeley. So we have customers for the wide range, and a lot of folks today are adopting all-flash storage. In addition to that, Pure Storage, we're named for 2 years in a row, named a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. This is their report, their annual report for all flash storage arrays. They would rank them from technology perspective, where are they going, and how likely they will succeed. And Pure Storage over the last 2 years has been ranked one of the leaders.
So, yeah. So the result of our assessment of needs, looking at different storage vendors, certainly I looked at a number of vendors. We did interesting anecdote. I had not ever heard of Pure Storage, honestly. I was doing an assessment of just the traditional vendors I was aware of, and you know, I mean, I try to read the industry magazines as much as I can, but you know, in my particular position, I'm sure is same as many of you. I don't have a whole lot of time to read industry magazines. I actually got a cold call from Alan, which normally for you know, school district technology supervisor position, you know, if I answered every call I got from a vendor, I'd be doing nothing but sitting on the phone all day. But he happened to catch me, and he had said, you know, have you looked at this? Have you looked at that? You know, and he says, can I send you an email? I said, oh, sure, fine, send me an email. You know, we've all heard a million of these, and you know, it just so happened it was right in the middle of me looking at different storage vendors. But upon doing some investigation and having numerous conversations and calling actually quite a few references myself, we decided to pull the trigger and do it. But anyway, the result of that being is we've got we have consolidated servers from 4 locations down to 1. We have 1 data center now instead of disparate server locations across the district. We have migrated all of our older VMs to to newer VMs, newer server hardware. You know, we did a server and storage refresh. All of our servers are Cisco UCS. And we've implemented VDI, and it's been very successful. We've had VDI going all year. Right now we have about 550 physical zero clients deployed. We've got another, I think we've got about 400 more on order for replacement this summer. And I can tell you from the performance monitoring that we do on the Pure that this thing isn't even breaking a sweat. All of our latency is sub-millisecond. The IOPS, I don't think the IOPS has gone any higher than 20K roughly. And that's, you know, the highest number of concurrent, even though we've got 550 zero clients deployed, the highest number of concurrent connections we've had has been about 260, I think, or so. And that's actually been very recently during testing. We've deployed a fair number of zero client stations into labs, so they've been using them a lot for testing. But we couldn't be happier. I mean, we've got literally everything running on this Pure Storage. We've taken all of our legacy arrays down. You know, it's our Active Directory, it's our file servers, it's our print servers, it's our database servers, it's our application servers, it's VDI, all running on the same device, and it barely even breaks a sweat. And as Alan was mentioning before, one of the things, the key things that really turned me on to them is, you know, like I said, I evaluated multiple different storage vendors, but you look at all the other solutions out there. You know, we had an HP. I, of course, talked to HP again. Well, the HP we have is roughly 6 years old. We've used it. We've been paying maintenance this whole time. And if you ask HP, well, do you offer, you know, trade up, trade in? Well, no, not really. You know, what are we supposed to do with the old one? Well, use it for something old. Well, is it under support anymore? No. Do we really want to use it then? So, you know, pretty much the answer is, well, put it in the surplus pile. See if somebody else might need it for spare parts. And that was really what drew me. One of the big reasons to Pure is you make your initial investment, you pay a predictive amount of maintenance every year that is locked. Was it 3-year lock-in? Yeah. You lock in the maintenance for 3 years, and then at the end of that 3 years, you get a controller upgrade. And so you're not doing all of these reinvestments every, you know, 4 to 6 years, depending on support level of your equipment, and just surplusing all the old stuff.
So,
Real quick note. So the support is actually, it's locked in for the entire time that you have the array. So, Chris, if you have it 15 years from now, there's a ceiling. You know, we guarantee that we're not going to exceed what you're paying today on support. With that, every 3 years, you get new controllers.
The support cost, was it a 3-year lock-in, or?
it's well, so you can prepay support 3 years in advance, or you can do it annually. But with Pure Storage, we have a guarantee of what we call flat and fair, saying that the initial year of support will never increase over time. It actually will decrease over time, as we've seen in the history that the cost of support, so the cost of hardware, will drop down in price. So we will revise our support numbers based on that revision of the hardware itself. For example, recently 3 months ago, we had a revision hardware because our engineers were able to find different components or source different components from different areas that are cheaper, so we pass on the savings to our end users by over 20%. So it'd be flat or fair.
So you get a new controller for 3 years, but as you say, your storage array is Consolidate Horizon, and they have a finite lifespan. So at some point you're going to find where a lot of your products are starting to fail, right? Because of cell failures. So at what point is that?
That's the big unknown. The reason being is because it's no secret, Pure Storage, in order for us to keep the costs on low, we leverage CMLC, commodity-based MLC, that's what ourselves. And we source it from Samsung or Toshiba. So before we ship out the product, we work with Samsung, give them our code, our purity code, to test out the life expectancy of their Samsung drives. We test out over 10 plus years of writes and rewrites based on our purity operating system, and the drive still ran. So that's the big unknown. We don't know. That's why with Pure Storage, we don't have a policy behind end-of maintenance on SSD itself. And in addition to that, each SSD has its own individual, what we call fingerprint, or basically its drivers, that talks back to the controller. So what Chris has today is about 512 gig SSDs. But 5 years from now, if one were to die, I'm not going to give him 512 gig SSD because by then it's going to be 7 terabytes maybe. So what we'll do, we'll give him a 2 terabyte SSD to replace the 512. Right? And once again, RAID will rebuild on that. Parity will be rebuilt within 6 minutes, and you're good to go. So regardless of the different type of drives you have in there, we can still support it and we can still swap it out.
So as long as you're paying the maintenance, the drive is
Yep.
replaced or
Correct.
Yep. That was one thing we experienced with the old HP. The older HP, if you look at the support model, you paid separate support on each controller, on each drive shelf, on each drive. You had, I mean, if we have on our old HP, we had 3 drive bays, and each one I think was 12 drives, so 36 drives total. And yeah, they didn't know how many you had if you had one fail, but technically, according to your support policy, you're supposed to be paying support on every single drive. So a separate line item. You look at your support, your yearly maintenance and support, and it's like, dang, what is all this stuff? With the Pure, it's like, oh, it's one line item. Support covers everything.
When you increase that drive, let's say you get 512,
Correct.
so there's no lines. Do you increase it, or do you lose that? Does your overall storage increase?
Yep, the capacity will increase. So the capacity will increase, and we're in the process of developing a way where, because drives are getting denser, so there's ways to condense multiple shelves into denser drives. We'll call it shelf evacuation, non-disruptive. So we don't do it on the background, non-disruptive. So that's our goal, is any type of operations we do, it's always online, no make physical windows required, and performance is guaranteed.
So when you think about that, year 6, year 9, you're going to have a faster, you're going to have a denser array than you started with. Your maintenance stays flat that whole time. That's really big. That's forever flat.
So Chris, today you have roughly your size, your array size today is 4U on the controllers and 2 shelves. Is that right?
3 shelves.
3 shelves. Wow, 3 shelves.
Yep.
So that's basically, do the math for me,
10U.
10U. My goal is a year from now is to get them to a 3U storage room or in chassis. And we'll take all that data and push it into the data packs. That's the storage room. We basically trade in those data packs, the shelves, and get those data packs from it. Keep them more dense. Always online, not disruptive, all the time.
Yeah.
This is incredibly saturated on all platforms. What kind of questions should I be asking the vendors in terms of how they to make a decision?
What do you think?
Well, from my standpoint, what I really appreciated, as I mentioned earlier, was the flat maintenance and the new controllers every 3 years, because you're not putting yourself into planned obsolescence. We all deal with multiple vendors, and as an example, we run a particular firewall. I really like it, but basically every 3 years I end up buying a new one, because when we come up, you can't buy any more than 3 years of maintenance when you first buy it, and when you come up on that 4th year and have to rebuy maintenance, the last time I did this, the cost of buying 3 years of maintenance was more than buying a whole brand new firewall with 3 years of maintenance. So it was not that big of a deal, it's just a hardware swap, but you're having to pay for that every 3 years. And with this type of model, you've got flat predictive maintenance and the upgrades are included. So
You know what?
I didn't find anyone else.
There's a lot of, so we started this program back in 2013, so 1 year after we shipped our first array. So when the founders created this program, they didn't increase costs. But throughout the entire year, there's a lot of other vendors that try to mimic that. But you gotta prove the technology. Because with Pure, anyone can create a program, but you have to prove that technology can support that program. So Pure Storage, we have a modular approach to our array of hardware. You can upgrade controllers independently from the SSD itself. So I'll ask the vendor to give me a 6-year TCO in email, so 6 years from now I can show it to you. And you said my cost is XYZ, my cost is XYZ. And any other vendor should get.
Yes.
New customers going to Pure Storage, what can we expect from Pure Storage as far as support?
Like data migration, things like that. So we work with partners that can do that. What we do is we can install the array for you. Within 2 hours, we can get up and run, stack and rack. I did one myself. So once they hit the sales tag, install array, anyone can. Literally it took me 2 hours. We have some engineers, so it's roughly about 15 minutes to do the whole entire process. But from a data migration standpoint, we work with partners that can, or VARs, that can provide that services. That's an additional cost.
In our particular instance, we just did everything ourselves. You know, we staged a plan, and the scenario we were in was we had older hosts running older VMs. That pretty much everything needed to be upgraded anyway. So it wasn't just a data migration. It was a host. It was a host upgrade, not only both hardware and software, and a VM upgrade on the software side. So we just rolled that all into one job basically. Took about a year to do, but.
What other all-flash vendors you got?
EMC, looked at EMC. I looked at Nimble, which wasn't all flash; it was hybrid at the time. At that time it was hybrid design. And the same thing with HP. HP had a hybrid solution. So in terms of all flash vendors, just EMC. And like I said, then the hybrids.
So one thing in the market today is you see that a lot of folks say that, hey, I can take out my disk drives in my disk space array and stick in SSDs, and it's all flash array. But at the end of the day, you gotta uncover what have you changed to make it all flash array? Because flash and disk, main disk, has different intricacies, different little things that the disk drive is good for, and that's not good when you write to flash or where else really fast. So those are the things you keep in mind. Is you've asked them, hey, what is your lifecycle I/O? How does the data sit on? How does the data get committed to the SSD yourself to ensure longevity of the drive, to ensure that you don't have those headaches of downtime and things like that. So hopefully, we spent a good chunk amount of time. We got 5 minutes left. So hopefully throughout this presentation, you're able to see really the vision behind Pure Storage. We like to think that Pure Storage is really similar to the cloud. People look to the cloud because it's simple, it's elastic, and the data, once the data sits in the cloud, it's basically forever. You don't care what Google does to your email. Google can upgrade components of their data center, and you can care less. It's really not transparent to you. So with Pure, we're really similar to that. Our goal is that once your data sits onto the Pure Storage platform, throughout the life expectancy of the array itself, different components can change, not just replicate, but your data will always stay in place. The investment you made will stay in place for the next 10 to 15 years. That's our vision. Thank you for your time. Any questions? Any more additional questions? Yeah, got that.
I'd like to thank both Cal and Chris. Got one more question? Go ahead.
So do you have any value-added software packages like NetApp has Snap Manager Suite, Snapball, VR,
So all of our software is inclusive. So replication, snapshots are included as well. So everything's all included in that. We do integrate with different technology vendors as well. We have a really talented team back in California that works with like Microsoft, for example. We have different toolkits that we deploy. We're working with VMware. We have a really good SE that does that for us. So all of our software is all inclusive. We don't charge you much for it.
One thing that we do use is they've got a API plugin for vCenter. So we use the vCenter plugin, and it's fully you know, you can provision and do any changes to the storage right within vCenter. Works great.
Without PowerShell.
No, it's a GUI.
No, you can get PowerShell tools.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we have this Microsoft sits at Melvin, and he does all of our SQL database and PowerShell. He writes all his codes. And that's all available to the public. So if you're interested, you can go online and take a look at it.
What's the ballpark price on this?
It's between $2 and $3 per day. Once again, it really depends on your data reduction. Right? At the end of the day, our average customer over 2,000 arrays that we have out today is worth about 5.5 So 5 terabytes of data to 1 terabyte system.
You have additional questions? But you come on. I thought that was the other one more. Is an additional one more?
One more. So, all components in your storage array are any of the pieces acquired from another vendor. All of us.
Everything is
So when we look at replacing the sand, our agency 4 years ago, we used clarity, fiber channel. It's, as I was earlier, the old stuff you have to sit on the shelf, it's still. But EMC's offering was all the LD, NetApp, and it's all, you have 4 different management.
Our commitment to
See, we're NetApp. We're looking at some of our customers that need us to play dollar space.
Yeah, I mean, all of our components is outsourced. Everything is engineered in-house. Even emerging products that we have another startup within our organization to leverage the second tier of storage, which is tier 2, for archival, video images, really those high density requirements. We call it FlashBlade, and we just talk about today. And that's done in-house, developed from the ground up from last year. So everything, the tier storage we created to keep it in-house, and look at applying the addition.
One last comment for those of you, I really appreciate this presentation. I appreciate including a district that's taken this step and moving forward. On the fun side of the conference, I'm going to be handing out a ticket that you can use to get prizes. How things are working this year is when you go visit the vendors and in their booths during the evening events, they'll give you chips. Those will be traded in for tickets that can be put into raffles. You can also go to the store. We have our ACPE branded store, so you could end up with a Coke or whatever else you would like. But that's what they're used for. I'll be standing at the back and I'll give you a raffle ticket. And if you haven't been in the altitude room yet, if you go in, which is just down the hall, if you go in and look, you will see a whole bunch of prizes that are being given away. You can put a ticket in. Otherwise, the information's online about how all of this works. And I want to thank you all very much for being here.